5 years ago, I made my own wedding dress. My true love and I celebrated our love and commitment to each other in a beautiful ceremony on a magical April day in Virginia. Today, the 12th of June, is Loving Day, named so in honor of Mildred and Richard Loving, who fought and won in the Supreme Court for the right to marry whomever we love, no matter their racial background. We owe our happy home in large part to them.
Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Souder and this is my wedding dress. It has been in storage for 5 years now. It needs some pressing, so just ignore that for now. In April, my husband and I celebrated our 5th anniversary, and by celebrated I really mean he cooked dinner for me, we both dressed up, and we had a nice romantic evening at home because there's not much else we could do. But we made the best of it. Now, before the pandemic hit, I had grand plans of making a video showing how I get into my wedding dress because it's got quite a complicated closure. And then the world mildly ended, so I didn't do that. Although I can't blame this entirely on the pandemic, there's definitely some procrastination involved. I know you're shocked. And when I did try on my wedding dress again, it no longer fit. It has been 5 years, and I have had a baby in the meantime, so my body has changed. Not necessarily for the worse, but I would still like to wear this dress again and get some pictures and do some video for all of you lovely people. So I'm going to try that out. Wish me luck. Okay, let's see how far we have to go with this. Okay, I got the first button at the waist buttoned. Second one is probably not going to make it. But there's a little bit of room there, I can move the button over. Third one is definitely not going to make it. And I've run out of room because here's the buttonhole. Here's the end of the fabric. But that's okay. This is all interior and I can add an extension there. Let me just measure how much I need. I knew the bust area was going to be a problem because that's certainly where I've gained the most from pregnancy. So, just gonna make a note of where the button is, where this piece ends, how much space in between. Alright. By the way, the reason this closure is so complicated is because I hate sewing zippers and I wanted to avoid it at all costs. So on this side, I have buttons for aesthetics, but I wanted to make sure they weren't actually taking strain. And I put skirt hooks just inside of the buttons. Oh, no, I messed up. I put the bottom hook in the wrong spot. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right, because this part is funky and I need to do the skirt first. Okay. So once again, let us measure for altering Chelsea's benefit. So this is going to be tricky because I only have the side seams to work with. There's no center front and no center back. So I'm hoping that there's enough seam allowance left in the interior here that I can let that out even significantly. It feels like there is enough on this side, so that's good. Alright, I think I know what I need to do now. Okay, I'm having to do a little bit of dress archaeology to figure out how past Chelsea put this together. I suppose I could just go back and read my blog about it, but who has that time? So I'm seeing from the interesting row of hand stitching here along the inside of the side seam that I sewed through both seams at the seam line to anchor them to each other, mainly because I didn't want to actually sew buttonholes, so I just left the seam open, and that's how I made my buttonholes in the side seam. So first thing will be to take out this hand stitching that's keeping the seams together. Very interesting choice, past Chelsea. Okay, I've just been searching around the lining, trying to find the seam where I closed up everything, because I did the hem by turning it inside out and sewing the two skirts together, the lining and the outer skirt, in one continuous loop. So there has to be a point where I hand stitched the opening closed. And I think I found it here on this slit in the lining of the skirt underneath that pleat, that box pleat that you saw me snap closed. There it is. That's hand stitching. So that means that's where I closed it up. Unfortunately, that's on the far side of the bodice from where I'm currently working. So I think I'm just going to open the seam down here and then hand stitch it closed again when I'm done. I think that'll be fine. Okay, I've unpicked this seam enough to where I can get at the interior. Don't know if I'm going to keep going because I do not have much seam allowance to work with here. So, not sure what I'm going to do about that. Just realized I'm an idiot and I don't need to let that seam out because I'm just going to add an extension and move where the button is. So I don't know why I even unpicked that seam. That was dumb. Disregard. Here is where I actually need to let out the top layer. And it looks promising because I can sort of see and feel through the lining that I've got about this much. Focus. About this much seam allowance on the inside. So let's open that up, get into it, and see what we've got. Okay, so I've removed all of the skirt hooks from the overlap, and I've accessed the interior. So now we can see the amount of seam allowance I actually have to work with. And I know what you're thinking, the bottom skirt hook did fit, was in the right place, did not need to be moved. However, I wanted to be able to open this up and lay it out flat, and I would not have been able to do that without removing all of the hooks. So
That's just going to make things a little simpler for me. Fortunately, it looks like I have the most seam allowance at the top where I definitely need it most. And let me just look at the actual fashion fabric, my beautiful silk. Yep, it looks like I should be able to use most of this because I didn't cut off a ton of it. Okay, that is really good news. I'm excited. Okay, time to move to the next step, actually sewing. Hooray! Okay, so here is my original stitching line and how much extra I was able to get from the seam allowance left inside. Obviously I have turned this right side out again, and we just match everything up. I have lost a bit of height, as you can see, because this top drape line is diagonal. I squeezed as much as I could out of the top, arguably a bit too much because the lining seam allowance is now very, very close to the stitching. Yeah, that's how close I cut it. Not ideal, but I did fray check this lining edge. And there's plenty of the silk, so I'm not worried about that pulling out. If the lining does pull out through the stitching on the inside, I'll just fold it over and tack it in place, and it'll be fine. In reality, this stitching line should not take much strain. It's not holding anything. Anyway, like I said, if I line up the bottom where the hook will go back on and follow it. Also, it's not quite to where it needs to be, so these hooks are going to need to move, at least the top one is. And actually, also, I did not quite get the 2 inches I need at the top here. From the original stitching line, as you can see, I only got just over 1 inch. And that puts me roughly 3/4 of an inch away from my goal. So I think what I'm going to do is move at least the top 2 hooks. I'll probably end up moving all 3, and the associated buttons closer to close up this gap. I'm going to try it on myself again and mark where this edge meets. I'll probably need my husband's help for that, so stay tuned. Before I do that, so I only have to try it on again once, I'm going to add an extension to the inner portion of the right side of the bodice, stage right, and move these buttons over. So let me just go digging in my fancy scraps box. That's not it. Wait, no. It's in my silk bin. Aha! Yes. This is my leftover gown fabric. Now I shouldn't need much. Smallish scrap should suffice. That'll work. And honestly, this extension does not need to be made from the silk. It could be made from the lining, because this is all interior and it will not be shown when I'm wearing the gown, but since I have scraps of the silk, I might as well just use that. I think if I just sew this inside out, turn it back around and tack it to the back side, then I can move the button over. And this is the selvage edge, so I don't have to finish that in any way. Amazingly, I think I'm going to be able to keep the hooks largely in the same spot. This one, the top, okay, this is so awkward because
my hand doesn't bend that way, but the top one I'm gonna move down just a smidge, and the rest are pretty much usable as is, and that is fantastic. I'm really excited. I was not expecting to be able to bring this all the way back here. I thought I would have a gap and I would need to move the buttons over, so I'm very excited that I don't have to do that, because having the buttons right at the side seam was the original design plan, and I'm happy that I can keep it going. Oh, I just filmed this whole thing vertically. That was dumb. Oh well. So it turns out opening this seam up on the right side wasn't the worst mistake ever, because it gave me access to the pocket, which I wanted to alter because I had initially made it far too deep, and I had made the opening too long, too big. So when I was reaching into the pocket on the day, I had to like really reach down to get to the bottom of it. So you can see I've shortened it here and closed up the side of the skirt underneath, making the opening more hand-sized and manageable. So that's good. Okay, so I've reattached the bottom 3 hooks, and just like I thought, I will have to move this one down slightly. So I just need to mark that and move it, and then I can put the hook on and button. That didn't work. Probably because I'm not left-handed. There. And then that covers the hooks and eyes so they don't show. Ta-da! It's done. That took a lot less time than I anticipated. I fully expected to be still working on it tomorrow, but I got it done in one day. It fits, it's comfortable, I'm happy. I have not fundamentally changed the style. I didn't get this button buttoned. It's just a very odd angle for my arms to manage, but it does reach, it does fit, it's in the right place. It's just really tricky to do. So I didn't bother for this try on, and that's fine. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm really ridiculously happy about this. I love this dress. I adored wearing it for my wedding. It was really special to wear a dress that I designed and made from pattern up. I drafted this thing. So just being able to wear it again is really gratifying. I'm really glad that past Chelsea left this much seam allowance inside. She didn't need to do that, but good looking out. So yeah, now I just need to have a nice day where I can go and do a photo shoot and get some video of this thing in action. After I press it, it really badly needs a pressing. But it made sense to alter it first because it would just get wrinkled again. So, I'll see you soon when I'm wearing it for real.
After the buttons on the right side are fastened, I pull the wrap front over to the left and fasten a series of snaps and hooks to create a large box pleat at the side of the skirt. This little bit of the bodice overlaps to hide the join and fastens with thread loops and small hooks. More skirt hooks bring the bodice together. And then elastic loops go over the buttons to hide the hooks. This last one is really tricky. The pocket sneakily hides under the drape on the right side. The train is a separate piece made from a truly Victorian pattern, which I will link below. I mounted it to a crescent-shaped piece of heavy interfacing and stitched vertical lines in between the pleats to give it more stability. It fastens around my waist with a twill tape waistband and a skirt hook at the front. This waistband is then covered by the final piece of the dress, a front drape cut on the bias, which fastens with more skirt hooks underneath the back of the train. I think every girl born in the 80s instinctively wants a big bow on her butt. Time for the final finishing touch. I did most of my makeup off camera. I use all Besame products because they're my favorite.
this dress so much. It's so fun to wear. I absolutely feel like a princess. Even before my daughter asked me, "Mama, are you a princess?" Which was the first thing she said when she saw me wearing this dress. Yeah, so I'm really happy with how my alterations turned out. I've been wearing it for hours and I'm very comfortable. So I'm overall very happy. Quite pleased and surprised with how quickly the alterations went, how well it worked. The thing that took the longest was ironing everything. There's so many layers to this skirt, and I had to iron them all. So that was... Let me just show you. So, let's start with the bottom. I didn't have enough silk to make the underskirt fully faced, so I mounted the silk onto the bottom portions and where I thought it would show when the overlapping overskirts were draped. And I did a fairly good job of guesstimating that, honestly. Then at the bottom there's this ruffle, which didn't need to be there. It was just a little extra something, a little visual interest, more fun than just the plain silk. So really, the underskirt doesn't show much, and I didn't need to make most of it silk, but I like being able to swish around and not show the plain cotton. So this entire underskirt is pieced that way. And then this drape is quite wide. It's the full, I think it was 54-inch wide width of the fabric. So I just left the selvage edges as is, gathered it all up, pleated it to that section, and that is where my pocket hides. So yeah, that pressing took forever. And then I had to press the train, which is enormous and not flat. It's all pleated up and... It was worth it though. And I just got to enjoy wearing my wedding dress again for no real reason. I hope you had fun watching. If you enjoyed what you saw, please give me a like. And if you want to see more, please subscribe. I have lots of ideas for new videos, not wedding related, but more costumes and some vintage fun. I'm really just enjoying my hair right now.